This is the 138 Miles Podcast with Matt Van Winkle and Drew Schlosser. Hello and welcome to the second 138 Miles Podcast, Cyclone Edition. My name is Matt Van Winkle, and I'm joined tonight by Drew Schlosser. Drew's an Iowa State student. He's a senior in graphic design. Drew, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we're going to be doing these weekly here. You might have heard Isaac and Brad do their Iowa flavored, I guess we'll call it, podcast last week, and we really enjoyed that one. We thought we'd give you guys a little bit of taste of the Cyclone podcast here. We're going to be giving you guys a little bit of a recap of the game against Kansas last Saturday. Iowa State coming out with a 13-10. I'm going to call it a weird win for Iowa State, just because
a squeaker.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't a very clean game. It was a low-scoring affair. It was 13-10. The kicking game was there for Iowa State. They didn't miss a field goal in that game. Zach Geyer, I think Grant Mahoney had one as well. So each of those guys nailed one through. And then Iowa State also with another, was it a rushing touchdown? I think it was James White had a rushing touchdown for Iowa State.
Aaron Horn had the rushing.
It was Aaron Horn. Thank you, Drew. Aaron Horn with the rushing touchdown. Kind of weird for a wide receiver to be getting a rushing touchdown, but it happened.
That play was just weird altogether.
It was just a weird play altogether. We should mention that Iowa State had many chances to score. They turned the ball over twice, I think, when they were in the red zone, or at least in the 30 yards of Kansas. So they had plenty of chances to score and get it in the end zone, but they just couldn't get it done. Drew, what were your thoughts on Saturday's game?
First off, I'm glad we came out with a win. Let's just put that out there. But some things worked, some things didn't. It seemed like we were not the same team that showed up in Lubbock the week before. 41
points against Texas Tech, and you come out and put 13 against probably one of the worst teams in the nation.
I want to have 2 weeks of consistent football for Iowa State. I haven't been able to see that in a long time.
Yeah.
And these past 2 weeks have been sort of similar to what we saw last year, going on the road to play Texas, ranked 19th at the time, at Texas, beat them, come back home against Kansas, and handle them pretty well. Don't quite remember the final score, but that was one of the games Coach Rhodes said was one of the most important games of that season, coming off a big win and, keep that ball rolling, keep up the energy with that. Then, you see this year, we're at Texas Tech, ranked 20th. We handle them 41-7. Great game overall, 4 quarters of football. And then we come back to play Kansas. I wanted to see us play the same way we played last year at Kansas at home, but glad to see we get those wins, playing Kansas after the ranked road wins. So good to see that.
And it's really being talked up a lot how Coach Rhodes this is his third year as coach at Iowa State. His first year he comes in, beats Nebraska. Second year comes in, beats Texas. Now goes down to Lubbock, beats Texas Tech. And I think Coach Rhodes really makes
third year.
Oh yeah, beats Iowa too. That's another big win. But to finish out this season, I think with another ranked opponent, a victory would be even more huge and instrumental for this team. They've really earned it. They've been through a lot this year, and it would really be nice to see them finish out the season with another win and get to a bowl game. I would consider the UNI game and the Kansas game similar, just to how the rate of the game was played, and it was just no consistency from the Iowa State offense. It was a close game throughout the whole time. It was a weird start time, 11 o'clock. It just didn't feel like a regular Iowa State game to me. I don't know why, but anyway, Iowa State gets the win, 13-10. They're 5-4 on the season, and they have finish off the Big 12 schedule against 3 ranked opponents. Iowa State does have a bye week. We'll talk about that coming up. They have a bye week this week, and they're back at home to play Oklahoma State next weekend, who is number 2 in the nation right now, Drew. And so the schedule doesn't get any easier from here on out. They go on to play Oklahoma at Oklahoma. That game time just got changed. I don't know if you saw that. That was kind of a weird thing. They changed it from like a 7 o'clock to an 11 o'clock start. But and then they go out to finish the game at Kansas State, or the season at Kansas State in December. But the schedule, Drew, just does not get any easier for Iowa State.
No, just want to mention, I don't remember the last time we had 2 bye weeks in a season.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. Yeah,
I'm not sure what the scheduling has to do with that.
Yeah.
But also playing December, it's a misnomer because it's not a bowl game.
No,
but
it's not a bowl game.
Ending the regular season at Kansas State. But tough schedule coming up. Just,
Absolutely.
Proves how tough the Iowa State schedule has been recently and not getting any tougher with adding TCU to the schedule and potentially West Virginia next year. Playing the same teams all next year. It's going to be consistent like this for the next few years, guys. So Iowa State fans are going to have to be patient with their outcomes of the season with the schedules that we have.
So with Iowa State being 5-4 in the season, that means they just need one more win to secure that bowl game. Let's go back a little bit. Let's talk about how the players played against Kansas. I think that's important before. We kind of jumped ahead. We're sorry. We got a little eager there. So we'll go back to the Kansas game really quickly. Jared Barnett, Drew, had 22 carries in the game. For a quarterback, to me, that seems like way too many carries. He took a lot of hits, and we even saw in that Texas Tech game, he took that hit right on the sideline there. I like the aggressive play out of Barnett, but I think 22 carries might be a little bit too much for a quarterback.
Some of those were turning into scrambles, so it was not planned to be quarterback rushes. But as we've seen out of many Iowa State offenses before, there's a lot of QB draws in the Iowa State offense. Some of those do work, some of those don't, but a lot of the rushes that he had on Saturday were from scrambles, which he actually turned into big gains, and it seemed like the QB draws, the sneaks that were called were not the ones working.
There were just a lot of holes opening up in the defense for Barnett, and I think he did take advantage of that. The running game for Iowa State, against Texas Tech the week before, they put up 300-plus rushing yards, and in the game against KU, they put up 400 total yards of offense. I don't know how many of those came on the ground, but it was quite a lot of yards. And that's been something that's been very impressive for me this season. Chantrell Johnson goes out with an injury, out for the season. James White has been stepped in and done just a phenomenal job. Got to give credit to Steele Jance, too. He is also another one of those players that can make plays happen out of nothing, and he's very good on the ground as well. Unfortunate for him, he's sitting on the bench right now, but that gives a lot of testament to Jared Barnett. But that's another story. Barnett's been playing well. Barnett's favorite receiver, though, had been Josh Lenz the past couple of games against A&M. That was his number one receiver. And he also hit him a few times down at Texas Tech as well. But Drew, against Kansas, 0 receptions for Josh Lenz. That was a surprise to me.
Yeah, it looked like his leading receiver was Albert Gary, who hadn't gotten much playing time, but had 5 receptions for 57 yards Saturday. And he did a great job.
Gary, as we call him. Gary, a great game out of him. We hadn't really seen him much this season. We really did see a lot of Darius Reynolds, who actually, we'll mention, didn't play at all against Kansas. I think Coach Rhodes said it was something he didn't meet team standards or regulations, or it was they were going around whatever happened with Darius. It was something behind the scenes that Coach Rhodes didn't want to allude to. But Darius Reynolds will be back against Oklahoma State, Coach Rhodes said this week. So maybe just sending a message to Darius. He really hadn't been playing well at all. I think he had something like 3 catches in the last 4 games or something like that.
Not really been a factor.
No factor at all, and it was really weird to see. I don't know. Darius had been the team's leading receiver in yards, total catches, and touchdowns. Josh Lenz passed him a couple of games ago in yards, but just weird to see Darius Reynolds not suit up against Kansas. So it's good to see that Barnett is connecting with other receivers, finding other guys down the field. So Gary, Chris Young. Thank you, Chris Young, not the pitcher Chris Young either. Let's move on. Iowa State, nice win against Kansas. We're 5-4. Okay, so we go into this bye week, Drew, with a 2-game winning streak. And do you think this is good timing for this team? Because they were riding a 4-game losing streak going into Lubbock, Texas. Now they come out of this Kansas game with a 2-game winning streak. Do you think that this bye is good for Iowa State, or do you think it kind of kills the momentum?
I think it's good for Iowa State. Whenever you have an extra week off, you have another week to practice the other team's offense and defense. You have another week to prepare, watch film. Basically, you get an extra week to know your opponent. And bye weeks are usually ones where you have more time to focus, but there can be some setbacks where you're taking it easy. You're not, you don't have to prepare. You don't have to jam in all your practices. Mm-hmm. but hopefully this works out well for Iowa State.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is a good time for Iowa State. We had a lot of guys getting banged up. We saw KO go down a couple weeks ago. He's been battling injuries. We talked about it earlier when Iowa State, you mentioned it. This is their second bye week. Iowa State comes into this bye. I agree with you. I think it is beneficial, though. We're coming in. We're going to be playing 3 ranked teams. We have a lot of time to study game film, look at our opponents, and we are playing 3 top 25 teams. Drew, my question to you is, do you think Iowa State has it in them to win one more game throughout the season?
I really think they do, but I do not know which win it's coming from.
I don't think anyone knows exactly what game. I think Iowa State fans can be hopeful. If I had to guess, I would say they could probably beat Oklahoma. And here's why. Texas Tech was the first team to go into Norman and beat Oklahoma in something like 35 games. And Iowa State goes down
9
to
years, I think.
Yeah, it was crazy what their home record had been lately. But Iowa State goes into Lubbock, beats Texas Tech, really makes a statement. And I think if Iowa State can play up to that level that they played against Texas Tech, I think they have a really good shot at beating Oklahoma. What do you think, Drew? Do you think which game, if you had to take a stab at it, what game do you think Iowa State has a chance to win?
Well, Kansas State has been thorn in Iowa State's foot for the past few years. There have been squeaking out wins, and it's just been really aggravating to see Iowa State lose.
Bill Snyder, though, has got that team looking pretty good, Drew.
I have wanted to see a victory for Iowa State against Kansas State the past few years. I don't like watching them win against Iowa State, but I did have, I don't know how much this pertains, but I did have a dream that Iowa State beat Oklahoma. I don't know if they're going to pull through. I don't know, just because Broyles is out, that doesn't mean their team is just going to fall apart. But Oklahoma is annually in the top 10. I don't see them not putting up a fight. I don't see it being one of those games where they overlook Iowa State, just because I'm sure they've had enough of upsets this year. So I see Oklahoma being prepared. I don't see us beating Oklahoma State.
Okay.
I don't see us having a chance.
Yeah, I don't see us beating that Oklahoma State team either, the number 2 team in the nation right now. So you think Kansas State, Drew?
I say Oklahoma or Kansas State, but I would rather see Kansas State. End it with an upset.
Just go out with a bang, right into the bowl game with the 1-game winning streak, you could say.
And then about a month later, go us into a bowl. So,
Drew, this has been a good first podcast, I think. Once again, Iowa State's got a bye week coming up, so we won't have a blog or a podcast for you. We might have an article. Well, who knows? We might have an article coming up in the week.
Why not have a podcast? Why not?
We'll see. We'll see. We might have a bye week podcast. Maybe bash the Hawkeyes or something. All right, Drew, we got a caller. Should we answer it?
Let's talk to him.
All right. Okay. Are you an Iowa State fan?
No.
You're not? Why not?
No, why?
Why not? Where are you in Ames? Are you in Des Moines?
What?
Are you in Ames or Des Moines?
I'm in Ames.
You're in Ames? You're not an Iowa State fan?
Nope.
Darn. Are you a Hawkeye fan?
Yeah.
Pre-game.
While we're talking Hawkeyes, why don't you go ahead and check out 138 Miles. Isaac and Brad are going to try to get a podcast up later this week on 138mi.blogspot.com. That's our blog. All right, we're joined now by Isaac Stroman, and Isaac is the Hawkeye contributor to the 138 Miles podcast. Isaac, Iowa's got a big game coming up this Saturday.
Yep, coming up next is Iowa faces off against Michigan State here in Kinnick Stadium, Iowa City. This one's big. Iowa controls their own destiny in the Legends division. If they win the rest of their games, they're going to the Big Ten Championship. But first they got to cross paths with Michigan State, who's currently leading the Legends division. Next, Brad and I are going to talk about this big game coming up for the Hawkeyes. It's senior day at Kinnick Stadium. It's going to be an exciting atmosphere as the Hawks are revitalized after that win against Michigan. So look for our next podcast. We'll be discussing this game, giving you our predictions, and giving you everything you need to know about the coming game.
All right, thanks, Isaac.
Yep, thanks, Matt.
All right, thanks. Go check it out. We're also on Facebook and Twitter at 138 Miles.
We are everywhere. So check back next week for another podcast. Thanks for listening.
Second and goal from the 4 with the Cyclones down 3. Here in the third overtime. Jantz, running play, right side, pitch to White, to the end zone, touchdown!